Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ran clear, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
The Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America and to the Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Over 152 years ago, in 1866, veterans from the Mexican-American War and the Grand Army of the Republic, along with active duty soldiers, and I am sure many of Brooklyn's business owners and residents, gathered together to plan an event to honor all those who lost their lives in the Civil War, a war that took over 620,000 lives and left millions more injured. The war accounted for more American deaths than in all other U.S. wars combined. Originally called Decoration Day, the motivation was undeniable. Americans had a keen desire to honor their dead. The first parade ran down Eastern Parkway in 1867. It officially became known as Memorial Day in 1966 and has become a day at the beach or a day with family and friends at a barbecue, a weekend off, but not for us here today. We may go to a beach or barbecue later, but we are here in Cannonball Park now to pay our respects to all those who died. Brooklyn's veterans have been marching for 152 years to honor our fallen from all of our wars and their families who must endure that loss every day, and we are all here to remember.
Today, we celebrate the heroism and the lives of our fellow soldiers, sailors, and Marines who have given it all for our country. We stand with their families as they look at this day and understand what Memorial Day means. For those of us who've been there, we understand. We understand that wearing the cloth of our country is not only is it a just cause, but it's a righteous cause. Lord, on this Memorial Day, bless everyone who has come here to be together as one. At this time, we also remember those who have not come back and those who are hurt and those who need healing. Heal those who need the healing, heal those who have the hurt, and be with the families of our dear ones that have lost their family members. We ask all this in your most holy name, and let us say amen.
Bay Ridge has a very special relationship, as we refer to it, as the fort. As we who live in this neighborhood, so many Americans, so many service members from Fort Hamilton have told me how much they appreciate their neighbors in Bay Ridge and Brooklyn. The commander of the Fort Hamilton garrison and his professional staff have supported this parade and our local community for many, many years. Please welcome the commander of Fort Hamilton, Colonel Andrew Ceesness.
To our distinguished guests, members of the community, it's truly an honor to be standing up here and talking to you. I thought about opening by discussing the meaning of Memorial Day. However, I suspect because you are here, I don't have to offer much of an explanation. Instead, I thought I would offer a few thoughts for perspective. Our nation declared independence 243 years ago. Based on the fundamentals of democracy, freedom, and human rights, our republic has grown stronger with the passing of time. It is hard to believe that of our 243-year history, we spent around 226 years in some sort of conflict. Compared to other nations around the globe, we are a young nation. However, our relative youth does not mean we have grown up unscathed as a country. The United States has fought in nearly a dozen major wars. In fact, depending on your information source, our country has been involved in 27 other smaller conflicts and 80 conflicts around the globe during our history. For the families of the 1,354,664 men and women who have died doing what our country asked them to do, I suspect the scale of the conflict matters very little. Whether their service member died in major conflicts like World War I, World War II, or Vietnam, or they died in places like Yemen, Kosovo, the Philippines, Grenada, the result is the same. Throughout our history, these families have shared a bond of the same tragic emptiness and loss that forever changed their lives. Our fallen service members came from every corner of our society to include this community. I don't have an exact number statistic, but thousands of citizens from this city have perished while doing their duty for our country. When called upon, many of them processed through this installation behind you and entered our armed forces. Thousands shipped off directly to overseas wars from Brooklyn. For many, this area of Brooklyn would be the last touch of America they would ever feel. Each loss is more than a number. It is a human story. It is a story of a childhood, a family with loving parents, siblings, friends, goals, ambitions, dreams, and things that all of us enjoy now and hope to enjoy in the future. Each number, each loss is an abrupt end to all that. Each loss is a devastation for a family who is forever changed. They were native New Yorkers like Joseph Carbone. Joseph grew up on Gold Street in Brooklyn Heights. He was like any other American kid. He had dreams and ambitions while enjoying a childhood growing up not too far from here. When America entered World War II, Joseph was only 17, yet he was eager to join the Marines. Finally, when he turned 18, Joseph was able to join. A year later, his unit landed on a small Pacific atoll called Tarawa. The battle was one of the bloodiest in the Pacific. In the 76-hour short battle, more than 1,000 Marines and sailors were killed. Joseph Carbone, 18 years of age, died 7,000 miles from home. It wasn't until 2015 that his family finally had closure when Joseph's remains were identified in a mass grave. Two decades later, Vincent Hickman served during a very politically contentious period in our nation's history. The young Brooklyn native joined the Air Force and was trained as a navigator aboard an aircraft. On January 14, 1964, at 31 years young, Vincent's aircraft was shot down. Vincent repeatedly exposed himself to enemy ground fire while flying a mission and was awarded the Air Force Cross for valor. Vincent's still 9,000 miles away somewhere in the Vietnam jungle. He's never been recovered. 4 decades later, another Brooklyn native answered the nation's call to serve. Kevin Hill joined the Army in 2008 when he volunteered to serve, fighting in both Afghanistan and Iraq were at or nearing their peak. Yet Kevin, like those before him, answered our nation's call. He probably swore an oath to our country just behind you on this installation here. In 2009, Kevin's unit in the 4th Infantry Division initially deployed to Iraq before being repositioned to Afghanistan to a very volatile and remote outpost in Afghanistan. In 2009, in October, at 20 years of age, Kevin was killed in action in Afghanistan. Kevin, Joseph, and Vincent were citizen service members. They drew inspiration for a desire to serve and defend our great republic because they believed in our nation and they believed in you. Without question or hesitation, they answered the call of our elected leaders. All three deployed to places they probably never heard of. Joseph, Vincent, and Kevin gave everything: the chance to raise children, grow into a profession, enjoy summer festivals here in the streets of Brooklyn, and continue their education and enjoy all that life has to offer. All of us here today have an obligation to never forget that the men and women who've died doing what our country asked them to do are more than just statistics. They are the reason why we're here today, enjoying the things so easy to take for granted, to include our freedom. We need to enjoy life to the fullest. We owe it to these men and women. God bless all those who gave so much, and God bless their families. Thank you.
For many years, our Grand Marshal, Marty Golden, was a major sponsor of this parade. Marty has championed veterans' issues and supported our men and women in uniform, supported all the men and women that came through Fort Hamilton. So I'd like to introduce our Grand Marshal, Marty Golden.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for coming out to this great, great parade in tribute of our men and women, those that served, and most of all, those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. And to all of those good men and women sitting in the back there, whether it be from our Catholic war veterans, our Jewish war veterans, all of our different war veterans from Vietnam, all the way back to World War II, World War I, and back to the Civil War. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for our military men and women that served our great nation and continue to serve. It is important to point out all of those that served our Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Coast Guard, and the Merchant Marines. It's also important to point out the greatness of our Fort Hamilton Army Base, the greatness that it served since 1825, with great commanders, great leadership, and many of the men and women. I dare to ask how many men and women in this crowd here went through induction through Fort Hamilton Army Base. Put your arms up, put your hands up. Go ahead, come on. How many guys went out to Fort Hamilton? Come on. I salute all of those involved who have made sure on this Memorial Day that the streets in our corners across the world, our little corner across the world, it was a sea of red, white, and blue. It was really great. One flag under God, and we wore it proud today, this very Memorial Day. Today, we salute the men and the women, and those who are on active duty, on our very own beloved Fort Hamilton Army Base, and to all those who left those gates just behind us to set out to serve and to protect us, and sacrifices that they have made and are still making this very, very day. Our community is full of pride and are indebted to the men and women of our armed forces. And today we stand together to recognize the honor of all those who have paid that ultimate sacrifice to the greatest nation in the world. And the only reason we are the greatest nation in the world is because of the men and women of this great, great country, and the American soldier that paid the ultimate sacrifice, and the American soldier that's fighting for us this very day across different parts of this great world. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Colonel pointed out, over 1 million men and women have gone to war, but not paid the ultimate sacrifice. Many have, but over 1 million paid that price. God bless them, and God bless the United States of America, and thank you for this humbling honor. Thank you, and God bless you all.
The American Legion had the honor of leading the other veteran service organizations in the line of march today. The Legion was chartered and incorporated by Congress in 1919 as a patriotic veterans organization devoted to mutual helpfulness. I'd like to introduce the New York State Adjutant, Frank Fazio.
This is a privilege for me to be here to speak on behalf of the American Legion. And while we're honoring all our departed comrades and all veterans of all wars, but the American Legion was born in 1918 by caucus and meetings of great men to put together an organization that represented all our veterans. And at that time, it was the veterans of World War I who gathered to create our organization. And in 1919, they accomplished that. And the first convention of the American Legion was held in Paris, France, where it all began. I say hello to our fellow France member. Since then, the American Legion was born with the thought of dying. Why? Because World War I was the war of all wars. It ended our wars. That was supposed to be. That's what we hoped for, that's what we planned. But since then, unfortunately, we have many wars. Going to World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and all the wars after that, to the present day, the war on terrorism. And all our comrades, departed and alive, will always be honored by the American Legion. And all veterans will always be open, the doors will always be open to join our ranks and support our departed veterans and all our veterans, and especially our active military. We'll always honor them. Thank you very much for this privilege. I thank and I congratulate our Grand Marshal because he, in particular as our Senator, has always supported American Legion programs and American Legion posts throughout the County of Kings. Thank you.
I would now like to introduce our representative in Congress, Max Rose.
You know, I enlisted right across the street about 10 years ago. And today, whether you're a relatively newer veteran like me or whether you served in a war a half a century ago, we think about our friends, our loved ones, who never made it home, who never got to fall in love, never got to have kids, never got to pursue their dreams. And we all know that they're there, but for the grace of God, go I. We all know that in warfare, all too often it's a matter of luck whether you come home or not, and when you come home, you have an obligation. We all do.
Lest there came the color gold. Show the world
too often, it's a matter of luck whether you come home or not, and when you come home, you have an obligation. We all do. In memory of those who never made it home, who paid the ultimate sacrifice. We have an obligation to live our lives to the fullest. We have an obligation to love our families, to love our friends, to be ethical and moral, to be patriotic. That's what we remember today. You know, today's not an easy day. I caught myself saying a few times, Happy Memorial Day. It's not a happy day, but it is a day that we pay respect. It's a day that we pay respect to those, as I said, that paid the greatest sacrifice, but it's a day that we pay our respect to the men and women overseas right now who are living with the fact that they may never come home. We pay our respect to them today as well. And so, with that, folks, I just want to close out by also noting that today we remember the 20 men and women who die every day from suicide, the 20 men and women, the veterans, who are still casualties of war, even though they take their lives here at home. And we pledge yet again that we will do everything in our power to save them before they take their own lives. God bless you all. God bless our men and women. God bless Brooklyn, and God bless America. Thank you again.
State Senator Andrew Gennardes would now like to say a few words. Andrew?
Thank you very much, everyone. You know, I'm sitting here and listening to the program and hearing all of our speakers and watching the flag being raised, and I couldn't help but think about a very special veteran in my life. That was my scoutmaster. You know, I didn't serve myself, but my scoutmaster taught me what it meant to honor that flag, what it meant to salute that flag, to honor our country, and remember the sacrifices of those who came before us. Today is a day for remembrance of those who gave their lives in the service of their country. As President Lincoln said, they gave the last full measure of devotion. Last full measure of devotion. Devotion to the flag, devotion to our country, devotion to the most enduring document ever written in the history of mankind, the Declaration of Independence.
My mother comes from Cuba, which is just 90 miles away from our shores. And unfortunately there, they don't have any of the freedoms and liberties that we appreciate and enjoy here. We are so fortunate to live in the United States of America. And sometimes it may be easy for some to lose sight of that. But I never have, and I never will. And I think it's because of the experiences of where my family has come from. This year in the state legislature, we won significant battles on behalf of our veterans. In particular, restoring proposed cuts for the Dwyer program, which is peer-to-peer counseling. And as was mentioned earlier, we're not just recognizing and honoring those who we lost in combat. We also have to remember those who have taken their own lives because they found it difficult to assimilate back to civilian life. And that's what the Dwyer program does. So not only did we restore that funding, but we expanded it for the city of New York.
I invite you all to take a walk among the flags at the back of the park. Charlie and Laura Gilley from the U.S. Hockey Players Support Our Troops campaign set up their exhibit once again for us, Field of Flags. It's very, very emotional. This presentation of 348 flags pays tribute to each of the fallen service members from New York State who have died fighting the war on terror since September 11, 2001. Field of Flags reminds New Yorkers to give pause and to reflect on the lives of the fallen, to support their families, and to support all those who are in harm's way around the world. Don't forget to set your alarm for 3 p.m. this afternoon and join millions of other Americans for the national moment of remembrance, to remember America's fallen and honor their ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our nation. I'd like to add something to that. Don't just do it at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Remember the fallen all year round. Just take a minute now and again and say, gee, boy, you know, thank you for what you've done. You've given us a life that we can really enjoy. So don't just do it today. Try and do it year round.
Memorial Day, and to remember all the veterans and the people who served in all the wars, and I think they deserve memory.
The same reason, to remember the people that fought for us, for our rights, to honor them, and always to remember them, never to forget them.
During the Vietnam War, I didn't go to Vietnam. I was an aircraft mechanic, and they wanted helicopter mechanics, and I tried though.
Can you tell me where you were stationed and what unit you were with?
Fort Lewis, Washington, Fort Rucker, Alabama, and Fort Dix, New Jersey. 1961 to 63.
I'm the president of the parade. My name is Connie Ranocchia. I've been doing the parade for over 30 years almost. I'm a Vietnam veteran era soldier. So, and we have our chairman is Ray Alvio, and chairman emeritus is Pete DeAngelis. We work on our parade all year we work on it. We start working, you know, it takes a lot of people to get this organized and ran smoothly. Today was the best parade ever we had, as far as spectators looking at everything and supporting the parade, and all the people that participated in the parade. My friend here, Irene Berger, she can tell you, her husband is also the treasurer of the parade, Barry Berger, and she is a veteran's wife who supports her husband all the time, and she is our secretary correspondence.
Get everybody to come in. I help my husband. We get donations for the parade, and we just try to do all the correspondence, the mailing, which is a big job. And I got involved with the parade. It's about 15 years or something. It's just the most rewarding thing is to give back. I met a soldier, married a veteran, and it's a veteran's life, and to help others and spread the word that it's Memorial Day and we honor the war dead. I get out of seeing a parade like this. Everybody gets together. It's camaraderie. They're all together as under one umbrella, the American flag. And there is no political, no Democrat, Republic, liberals, nothing. It's just one day out of the year. But it should be a lot of every days that we celebrate the veterans and remember the war dead.
I was a Persian missiles technician, and I was also a helicopter technician. I worked on the Hueys, I worked on the Chinooks, I worked on the OH-50As, and I got to work on one of the newer, the Hawks helicopters.
What years was this?
This was 70 through 78.
Can you tell me again where?
I was stationed in Germany, but my unit was in Vietnam. So all the helicopters that came to Germany, we repaired them. So that's all we did. I also want to say, like she said, her husband, she's a veteran's wife. My husband is a veteran's wife. Husband, I should say, a veteran's husband for support me. He supports me in everything, and he stands by me in what I believe and everything.
A lot of people, I've heard it say that, when somebody's in the military, the entire family's in the military.
Absolutely.
So you can both relate to that from different perspectives, right? How does it impact your family?
Definitely does. It's not only when the person enlists, but his family, or when we lose a soldier or a service person, the family is the one that supports them all the time when they're overseas and when they're at home, and they're the ones that miss them all the time. So we believe strongly on supporting the military family also.
Members of Rolling Thunder will be raising our nation's flag. When it tops off, the Veteran Corps of Artillery will fire a 21-gun salute. And then Alexandra Colasanti and Lucas Kelk, 2 members of Fort Hamilton's Herald Trumpets, will play echo taps. Please rise. Veteran Service Organization, may you read. We will now have a blessing by the U.S. Army Garrison Fort Hamilton Chaplain, Major Bruce Duty.
I invite you to pray along with me if you'd like, please. Lord God, we thank you for such a great day as this, and for very precious and special moments like these. God, where we are able together to honor those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Come this way.
God, so that we can have the blessing of friends, and the blessing of family, and God, the blessing of freedom. Thank you for reminding us again of the great words. There is no greater love than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. Lord, please continue to provide your blessings on everyone here and on God, our military here and around the world, the greatest military in all the world, and on this nation, the greatest nation in all the world. In your name, amen.
I invite you all to take a walk among the flags at the back of the park. Charlie and Laura Gilly from the U.S. Hockey Players Support Our Troops campaign set up their exhibit once again for us, Field of Flags. It's very, very emotional. This presentation of 348 flags pays tribute to each of the fallen service members from New York State who have died fighting the war on terror since September 11th, 2001. Field of Flags reminds New Yorkers to give pause and to reflect on the lives of the fallen, to support their families, and to support all those who are in harm's way around the world. Don't forget to set your alarm for 3 p.m. this afternoon and join millions of other Americans for the National Moment of Remembrance, to remember America's fallen and honor their ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our nation. I'd like to add something to that. Don't just do it at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Remember the fallen all year round. Just take a minute now and again and say, gee, boy, you know, thank you for what you've done. You've given us a life that we can really enjoy. So don't just do it today. Try and do it year round.
Mr. Ed Green. And I give you the military medley. The United States Coast Guard. The United States Air Force. services.